Hello and welcome to the news on NT International. I am Anne Jibuno. First, the headlines. President Buhari receives Buratai, urges Nigerian army not to be lenient with terrorists and insurgents. World Oceans Day, correspondent on interlinkages between problems and opportunities in oceans. As Tanzania and New Zealand declare COVID-19 free status, most countries are easing lockdown despite rise in cases of COVID-19. President Muhammadu Buhari has described as reassuring the giant strides being recorded by the Nigerian army in the ongoing counter-insurgency operations and urged the service to neither relent nor be lenient with criminal elements as efforts are intensified towards making Boko Haram a thing of the past. The president stated this while granting audience to the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Yusuf Buratai, who for the first time made public the casualty figure on the side of the terrorists. State House correspondent Adamu Sambu has details.
For over 2 months, the Army Chief, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, had been in the front line with officers and soldiers committed to putting an end to the menace of Boko Haram and other criminal elements in the northeast. He is here to give President Muhammadu Buhari details on the military operations, achievements recorded so far, and the next plan of action.
The troops' morale is very high. While in the field there, some of them are even ready to stand between me and the bullet. They're ready to take the bullet for me. So I'm very much impressed and happy with my officers and soldiers. So far, over 1,429 of these Boko Haram terrorists have been neutralized, and we have arrested over 116 Boko Haram terrorist informants, their spies, their couriers on logistics, and their coordinators in the villages, in towns, and even in the forests. Our intelligence corps, along with the Department of State Services, and of course our good friends, the civilian JTF, have worked very hard to see that this is achieved.
President Muhammadu Buhari described as fulfilling that efforts made so far in the renewed fight against terrorism and insurgency have paid off and applauded the troops for exhibiting high sense of courage and patriotism.
As far as the operation in the northeast, Mr. President is happy, highly elated, and this is an encouragement to me and the troops. And I urge them to maintain this high standard of operational capability so that not only in the northeast, other troops in the other areas are also will do the same. Just like what is happening in the northwest. The troops are determined. We are giving them the necessary support. We are reinforcing the troops in the northwest. We are also getting more equipment for them to operate with. The overall plan is to rid the whole of the northwest, and of course, imagine threats that are coming up in other parts of the country, especially the north central, and of course, south, west, southeast, and the south. So it's a comprehensive approach to tackle any insecurity that is emerging.
The Nigerian Army, Lieutenant General Buratai, however, said will continue to synergize with other services and security agencies in the task of securing Nigeria for effective service delivery. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
In the meantime, President Muhammadu Buhari, in line with his constitutional responsibility, has sent the nomination of Justice Monica Dogban-Mensem, Acting President, Court of Appeal, to the Senate for confirmation as President, Court of Appeal. A statement from President Buhari's Senior Special Assistant, Media and Publicity, Justice Dogban-Mensem is a serving justice of the Court of Appeal and was recommended by the National Judicial Council for nomination by the President. An Information and Culture Minister, Lai Mohammed, says as the federal government gradually opens up the economy after the total lockdown to contain the spread of COVID-19, just like the rest of the world, with domestic flights due to begin by the end of June, it is also set to put in place a new protocol for safety and security for all. The minister stated this in his address to the 63rd meeting of the UNWTO Commission for Africa. Anthony Forson reports.
For us in Africa, after the pandemic, focusing on rural tourism will help speed up the recovery process in the travels and tourism sector.
The virtual meeting had African ministers of culture and tourism participating. The meeting focused on mitigating the negative impact of COVID-19 and how to rise above board in strengthening the sector in a post-COVID-19 era. It is in this line that the Information and Culture Minister, Lai Mohammed, chronicled the Nigerian experience and how the Nigerian government is handling the situation. Lai Mohammed said, while there is no clear indication on how the world has changed, the ability to adapt and recover fast is a pointer to the resilience which the travel and tourism sector must leverage on now.
The sector is a driver of growth and economic prosperity, accounting for 1 in every 10 jobs globally. The employment opportunities provided by the sector benefit a wide variety of people, especially the low-skilled, the youth and women.
The minister enumerated palliatives put in place to cushion the impact of the disease on the entire populace, as well as policies put in place to aid businesses to grow.
This is because rural tourism employs more people in Africa. And here I'm talking about arts, crafts, culture and heritage. It is, however, imperative for the UNWTO to support Africa with a Marshall Plan of sorts and grants.
The federal government of Nigeria, the minister added, is not resting on its oars to ensure that Nigerians live well and stay safe. In their submission, Chairman of CAF, Ronald Chitotela, and the Secretary General of the United Nations World Tourism Organization, Zura Pololikashvili, enumerated the depth of the impact of COVID-19 on the tourism sector and called on member states to rise up to the challenge by putting in place necessary mechanisms that will propel an instant recovery of the sector after what has been lost within the lockdown and travel restrictions. The 63rd UNWTO Regional Commission for Africa meeting was scheduled to hold in Victoria, Seychelles in February this year before it was suspended as a preventive measure amidst COVID-19 outbreak. In Abuja, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
Every year on the 8th of June, global attention is drawn to the wealth of marine and coastal biodiversity by commemorating World Oceans Day. For this year, 2020, the day highlights interlinkages of the problems humanity face and opportunities to harness ocean resources in a safe manner. Onengeye Fineface has more.
Covering approximately 71% of Earth's surface, the ocean is responsible for 97% of water on Earth and serves as the largest source of protein, with billions of people depending on its biodiversity for their livelihoods. World Oceans Day 2020 provides an opportunity for the global community to honor, help protect and conserve the ocean.
When we say we want to conserve oceans, what we mean is that even the land that surrounds the ocean have to be conserved, because a lot of marine animals come out to come and breed at the beaches. So if you destroy their habitat, how do you protect them?
The theme, Innovations for a Sustainable Ocean, draws public attention to the impact of human actions on the ocean, develop a worldwide movement of citizens for the ocean, and mobilize people to manage marine and coastal biodiversity in a sustainable manner.
We need to ensure that our water bodies are not contaminated. Our water bodies do not become scenes of dangerous and destructive exploitation. They don't deny our fishers from getting the fish on which they survive.
Emphasis is placed on celebrating the beauties, wealth and promise of the ocean. In Abuja, Onengeye Fineface, NTA News.
And to shed more light on the World Oceans Day is Dr. Victoria Nyeche. She's the founder of the Green Way of Life initiative, and she's joining us via Zoom from Port Harcourt. You're welcome to the news on NTA International, Doctor.
Thank you very much.
Now, in line with this year's commemorations, can you tell us the innovations that we can adopt to ensure we have a more sustainable, or rather, we have more sustainable oceans across the world?
Thank you very much. There are a lot of things that are actually happening to ensure that we use our oceans more sustainably, especially in the very developed world. There are a lot of applications that can give you real-time progress of what is happening, so that when divers go into the sea, you don't have to wait for them to come out to give you the report of what has happened. You can actually monitor what is happening right in the sea. And even these issues of illegal fishing, there are a lot of applications that can tell you in real time where the fishing is taking place, and you can know if there are pirates or if you actually have registered trawlers on the ocean. We also have found out that right now there are some applications that you can use to know where the whales are, because there's been a lot of incidents where mariners run into the whales and they are affected. But with these applications that are on ground now, you find out that these innovations have made it safer and healthier for us to use our oceans and for the oceans to be more sustainable, so that we can value what we have, even though we don't pay for the oceans. But so much life and diversity is in the ocean that we need to actually use it in a more sustainable manner, unlike the pollution that we have and all the different incidents of biodiversity loss that's associated with the oceans right now.
In the Niger Delta region, which of course, we are aware of what is really going on there. What are the dominant threats to marine and coastal biodiversity in that region? Briefly.
Yeah, we have the threat of oil pollution, oil spills. We have the industrial waste that cause a lot of havoc, and we've even seen in very recent cases in the coastline of Bonny, where tons of fishes were found floating on the shores, and even some unscrupulous fishermen were packing these fishes and selling them in the market. So there was a huge scare about buying fish, especially frozen fish from the market. We have marine litter, which pose a lot of threat to seafarers and seagoing vessels, not to talk of the incidents of sewage-related litters that cause a threat to our public health and make us susceptible to very infectious diseases like dysentery and typhoid. So these are some of the dominant challenges amongst the several challenges that we actually have in the Niger Delta.
Let's talk about CSOs, of which you are part of, the Green Way of Life. That's yours. How are you contributing to ensure that oceans are sustainable? What are you?
First, we are creating a lot of awareness, because even though the oceans actually make up 70% of our planet Earth, there's very little, about less than 10% that is known about the oceans. So there's a need for awareness and appreciation. And we're also helping to follow up the implementation of government policies, because most times governments are signatories to a lot of conventions, and those things just, remain on paper, gathering dust. But as civil society groups, we monitor the implementation of these conventions to ensure that at the end of the day, we walk the talk. And we also try to lobby for policies, because the mangrove, for example, is, in the Niger Delta, we find out that the mangroves are fast diminishing. So there's a need for us to have bills to protect some marine areas. So all those kind of lobby and follow up on bills is something that NGOs like ours do. But most importantly, we create awareness on the need for us to value our ocean and to value biodiversity.
Thank you very much, Dr. Victoria Nyeche, for joining us today.
You're welcome.
Dr. Victoria Nyeche, founder of the Green Way of Life Initiative, talking about the World Oceans Day. You're watching the news on NTA International, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital city. Stay tuned for more stories after the break.
Nigerians, let us take responsibility. Stay healthy, stay safe, and curb the spread of the virus. Take responsibility. The coronavirus spreads from one person to another. Let us avoid crowd gathering of any kind for any reason. Take responsibility. Avoid traveling from one state to another during these lockdown restrictions. Obey all the rules that are put in place. Take responsibility. Stop spreading fake news and unverified reports about the coronavirus. There is no known cure for COVID-19. Take responsibility. Observe all the measures that can help stop the spread of the virus. Together, we can do this, but only if we take responsibility. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Thanks for staying with us. The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has commenced the process of integrating comprehensive psychological services into its activities to be driven by the Federal Medical Center, Jabi, FCT. All Nigerians are therefore advised to take individual and collective responsibility by adhering to all public health advisories. These were fallouts of Monday's briefing, where the task force took stock of its activities in the last 100 days.
A major outcome of the 100 days assessment is the recognition of the need for states to scale up responsibility for their public health response in the medium to long term. We hope to build a network of state public health labs that will bring about sustainability in public health response in Nigeria.
Minister of Health Osage Ehanire said tracing and testing will be vigorous and advised senior citizens to stay home or wear masks when going out.
Was focused and targeted at the initial phase on screening travelers at points of entry, testing for virus importation, tracing their contacts, and isolating positive cases. It seemed with that we were safe for a while. But since our entry into the community transmission phase, we have begun to see more figures rising.
Meanwhile, New Zealand has officially declared itself potentially COVID-19 free with its last case discharged. Let's join Uche Ugochukwu for details of this and more on COVID-19 update around the world.
The Africa Center for Disease Control dashboard shows the continent now has 189,434 cases of COVID-19, out of which 5,175 patients have died and 82,888 recovered. Nigeria recorded 260 new COVID-19 cases and 12 deaths in the last 24 hours. Data from the NCDC indicates Abuja for the first time is topping the list with 67 cases, followed by the FCT with 40 and Lagos 38, whereas Niger, Ondo, Plateau, Kano and Sokoto are the least with 2 cases each. There are now 12,486 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria. 3,959 have been discharged and 354 died. South Sudan's first Vice President Riek Machar and his wife, who tested positive 3 weeks ago, have recovered from COVID-19. Tanzania's President John Magufuli has declared the country coronavirus-free. The World Health Organization has expressed concern over Tanzania's strategy on COVID-19. The government stopped publishing data on the number of coronavirus cases in the country since May 29. However, Mr. Magufuli said last week that only 4 patients were receiving treatment in the largest city, Dar es Salaam. Similarly, New Zealand has officially declared that the country is potentially COVID-19 free, with its last case discharged. In a statement on Monday, the country's Ministry of Health confirmed that there was no new case of COVID-19 for 17 consecutive days. India reopened shopping centers, restaurants and places of worship as lockdown eased, despite recording over 604 new cases and a total of 258,090 confirmed infections in the country. Also, Russians are to resume international travel for the first time since late March as some coronavirus restrictions are eased, although the country records over 8,985 new cases of COVID-19. I am Uche Ugochukwu. I now leave you with weather figures as at 6 p.m. local time.
Joining us in the studio to discuss the hike in COVID-19 cases in Nigeria is Dr. Ejike Orji. He's the chairman, Medical Subcommittee, FCT Ministerial Expert Advisory Committee on COVID-19. Doctor, you're welcome to Enter International News.
Thank you very much.
Recently, we've experienced a hike in cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria. What do you think is responsible for this?
Yes, I think there are 2 things that are responsible for us to see, as we're seeing a hike in numbers. Number 1, the testing ability of the country has completely has improved markedly. Remember, at the start, we had only 4 or 5 laboratories that could do this test. But now, almost 25 or more states have the capacity and the ability to test. So tests are being ramped up. The second one is that the post-lockdown, if you see how people are mingling and jostling, especially in the markets, and some of the religious houses have already started, even though with the strong warning from the presidential task force that if you open, you should obey strict guidelines that they have introduced. So by and large, the science tells us that there will be an increase in the spike because a lot of people will be infected. And I think that is what is making the hike go up now.
COVID-19 or coronavirus is real, but there are certain people that are still in denial. What can be done to ensure that these people realize what's going on and take responsibility?
Yes, I think the most important thing is to do a proper community engagement, especially in the communities. And then even high-placed people are still, some of them are still in denial. But one thing I have found that each of those people, if you engage them properly and properly educate them about first of all, about the disease and the philosophy around it, and then also make them understand, if you understand that, then following the instructions will prevent you from getting the disease. By and large, a lot of people change their minds and take it serious. But I think this is one area I don't feel that we have done particularly well nationally. And that responsibility actually lies squarely in the hands of the governors. We feel they should take the charge, and including local government chairmen in different local governments around the country. There must be proper community engagement.
Okay, you actually mentioned governors, and let's take a look at what's happened in Abia State. It was quite disturbing, the caliber of people that actually came down with the virus, the governor and his cabinet. Does this really send a signal?
Yes, it sends a signal in the fact that a lot of states have also been in denial, and a lot of states have not been testing properly. I think in Abia, if I'm not wrong, I don't think we'll have up to 2,000 people tested so far. From what I hear, the cohort of 267 that has been seen now was just from between 250 samples taken. And mind you, Abia State does not have any testing laboratory. They depend on Ebonyi State. But when Ebonyi started seeing a hike and they couldn't completely take care of themselves, they decided to reject tests coming from samples coming from Abia, and that's why they have to now come to Abuja. So I think this is a wake-up call for the Abia state government. The governor is now probably, I don't know where he's in isolation, but he's in isolation now, and a lot of his cabinet members. I think this is a wake-up call that they should make more investment and then bring in professionals, key professionals to lead the charge and make sure that people leave the denial phase and get into understand that disease is here. Because we have gone back away from the lockdown. Post-lockdown is not post-pandemic, as some people say. We are now in the in the era of living with the virus. What are the strategies that we're going to adopt to mitigate the consequences of the spread that will eventually be coming? But how do we live with the virus and making sure that people get public information and protect themselves?
All right, Doctor, let me just cut in here. You've actually reeled out what governors should be doing, especially in states where the hike is really, the cases are really high. You've mentioned so many things. Is there any extra they need to do, because the numbers are really alarming?
Yeah, I think in terms of strategic approach, each of the states should first of all work hard to build capacity of their healthcare system to be able to take cases when they come. Immediately you do that, if you build that capacity, the next thing is to increase your track, trace, test, and isolate people so that you reduce the rate of transmission. Mind you, this disease is going to be with us for the next 1 year or so, until 60 to 80% of the world is infected.
Thank you very much.
So the important thing is to mitigate the consequences of very high so that it will not overwhelm your healthcare system.
All right,
and
thank you.
start seeing people die.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ejike Oji, for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Ejike Oji is the Chairman, Medical Subcommittee, FCT Ministerial Expert Advisory Committee on COVID-19. Now let's move on. President Muhammadu Buhari has condoled with the family of Lady Janet Okwaraji, a teacher and school proprietress who passed on at 83, leaving lasting memories of kindness, love and charity as a devout Christian. The president believes Lady Okwaraji, whose son Samuel died in August 1989 while playing for the Super Eagles in a World Cup qualifier, will always be remembered for the sacrifices of the family for the nation. President Buhari affirms that the matriarch of the Okwaraji family, like her son, defined simplicity, loyalty and patriotism in many ways, as she remained steadfast, believing in Nigeria despite the vicissitudes of life. Similarly, the President commiserates with the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Defense, Sabiu Zakari, over the passing of his wife, Ajia Aisha Zakari. President Buhari joins the family members and associates in mourning the devoted wife, whose contributions to improving and bringing joy to the lives of others will be sorely missed. Now, the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Zubairu Dada, has denied a media report linking the ministry with an issue of inviting the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy over office allocation to Nigerians in Diaspora Commission. In a statement by the spokesperson of the ministry, Ferdinand Nwonyi, the minister said in his capacity as supervisor of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, invited chairman of the commission to brief him while the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy volunteered for discussion, which the Minister of State declined because, as he said, the matter can be resolved amicably. The minister, or rather the ministry, appealed to all parties to exercise restraint and avoid further media confrontation. Well, that's the news on NT International. We thank you very much for your time.